Hello, my distinguished colleagues, and we are present today on the side of the Library of Foreign Literature, and we're happy to welcome all of you at this second session of the fourth meeting of the Russian-American Library Dialogue. We already got together yesterday. I would like to remind you one more time that this side of the Library of Foreign Literature, we have two delegations from Russia and from the United States. And you could look at the makeup of those delegations, the materials that we place on the Zoom chat. And I would like to welcome those who joined us at on the page of the Library of Foreign Literature. We've covered a very huge audience yesterday, and we had a really large audience, and that shows that our meetings are really necessary for the professional communities in both countries. And I would also like to let the people watching us on Facebook know that they could actually look at the makeup of both delegations in the comments that we placed on our Facebook live stream. I would like to repeat myself one more time, is that this dialogue between the United States and Russia has been in existence for the fourth year. This is our fourth meeting. We have prepared a very short video to ensure that those who are not familiar with the projects, if they would like to learn some facts about the achievements of our Russian-American Library Dialogue. Well, friends, hooray, we're actually together, and this is not just a figure of speech. We're together, we're really happy about that. I'm not going to spend our really valuable time just talking. I would like to welcome all of the participants one more time, and those who are watching us on Facebook. And I'd like to give the reins to our great moderators, Lyubov Kazachenkova. I don't think that we have to introduce her because she's the editor-in-chief of the Modern Library magazine. She is a person who really actively involved in the library community, not just in Russia, but in many other nations. And another moderator will be Nancy Kranik. She's the mother of the Russian-American Library Dialogue. She's a co-chair of the dialogue on the American side, and she's a leading expert in the Rutgers University, dealing with the issues of library education and the international library-related programs. Dear colleagues, I would like to give you the floor. They're going to be moderating this meeting. Thank you.
So, good morning,
Nancy.
good evening, everyone. And I have my Yes, were you going to say something else? Oh, okay. So, reminder about the interpreter. Make sure you have English or Russian so we can all understand each other. So thank you for showing the film again. It's a wonderful video, but I like so much it talks about uniting our library worlds. And so we will spend another day uniting our library worlds, but I think it's important to also keep in mind that the work we're doing is not just about libraries. We are a subgroup of the Dartmouth Conference, which is a citizen-to-citizen conference between US and Russian citizens that started way back in the Cold War in the 60s. It's been going for, I don't know, maybe 65 years already. I haven't been to that many. Ellen has been to more than I have, but not as long. I think Sveta's been coming more than all of us. But we're really what the Dartmouth Conference refers to as soft engagement, and how we can help to bridge some of the gaps we may have in our more official relationships by demonstrating how important, you know, this citizen-to-citizen talk is, which is exactly what we're doing, and creating bonds. So this is more than just what we as librarians are doing. We're uniting our two worlds. And so I hope you will keep that in mind, how important you are to not just the library world, which is an important world, but we are also important to the broader concerns. So I want to welcome, I think, Clara Chu. Is Clara our only new person today that didn't join us yesterday? So we are going to get started right away because, as we discovered yesterday, there's never enough time for the most important part, and that is the exchange of ideas. So I want to say hello to my Russian colleague and let you say hello, and then we will ask you to put your comments in chat. If you have them, we can take a few responders each time, but try to make sure you're involved as much as possible. If not speaking, then at least in the chat. Thank you.
Позвольте, я добавлю еще пару слов.
Let me add a few words here. I would like to, with all my heart, I would like to let you know that I'm proud to be participating in this Russian-American dialogue. Well, since we're discussing the libraries and the sustainable development goals. During the quarantine, we've had so many online conferences involving business and manufacturing, and all of them were discussing the issue of survival during the pandemics. The business was discussing the profitability issues. The libraries also have lots of internal issues, but the main subject for our conversation was very humane in a way, the achievement or the assistance of libraries in accomplishing the sustainable development goals. The libraries are not talking about their own issues. They're trying to help the society, the community, and each particular person with those goals. And in that regard, we are trying to achieve a very political level of the conversation, because the professional area touches upon every person who is involved by his or her own government into political and social issues. If we are looking at what the libraries have been doing during the quarantine, they were one of the first ones that started posting some positive information into the virtual space. The libraries have been able to restore the lost or the broken ties between the individuals within the same family, help the people to associate inside the same home. Well, it's a matter of socializing between different generations. We've lost that touch with the other people, and this tiny virus forced us to understand that human relationship and life are the most important issues in this world, and the libraries actually concentrated on this particular set of issues through their online operations. I'm welcoming all of the participants with all my heart. We'll be able to listen to really super interesting experience. Maybe some of those experiences will look local, but all huge affairs are always being accomplished through tiny steps. And I would like to give the floor to another moderator, to Nancy. Thank you, Nancy.
So let's get started with our presenters this morning. We are going to focus on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And let's start with, let's see, day 2. Loida, do you want to go first? And then we'll turn it over to your Russian colleague to do an overview, and then we will go we're hoping to keep to our time, 10 minutes total, so we can move right into talking about good health and well-being with our conversation starters and asking some of the questions that we included on your agenda. So thank you, Loida.
Thank you. I will share my screen. Here we have. Okay, so it's not that one. Okay, here we go. Well, libraries are extremely important to sustainable development. As we know, the agenda for the 17 Sustainable Development Goals was adopted in September 2015 during the United Nations General Assembly, which I was fortunate to attend. If we think that the UN Millennium Goals, the ones that preceded the SDGs, not included access to information, that for 15 years, there was no access to information on the global agenda. We can see how this was and is still a big win for the library community, for IFLA that led the advocacy in this area, and for information professionals worldwide. And why we should care that our libraries offer services and help communities achieve the SDGs. Because access to information, as one of the goals, is a cross-cutting issue and impacts everything in our world. It's also at the core of what we do as librarians. And all these issues impact our societies and communities. And for example, and pertaining to today, we're going to look into the health and well-being of people, goal 3. So that impacts access to information is there. And also we're going to look at goal 8, which is helping people have decent jobs and economic growth in the countries. And access to information is key in that area as well. And they are wrapped, all the 17 goals, by number 17, which is partnerships. And I believe this one is key to help us all, libraries and civil society, build essential services that will help us help our societies that are deeply affected by the pandemic. So in short, the role of librarians on implementation of sustainable development. Libraries have the power to provide access to information that can help people better educate themselves to achieve goals, secure jobs, and learn about water systems and even agriculture. And this will bring communities closer to development. ALA created a task force on the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. It's an initiative of President Jefferson. We're very happy about that. I'm happy to chair that task force. One of our activities included a webinar with the Australian, German, and French library associations to show how libraries are helping to promote the stories of how they are helping communities achieve development. And it was wonderful. And by the way, next week, we are going to have another of this webinar, but by the German Library Association, and I will be sharing some news there too. We created various charts, and today I'm going to share one of them. And it's because we are going through this terrible pandemic that we need to focus, right? And that it is impacting all our areas in our lives. So for instance, libraries are helping communities achieve development in the SDGs in the area of quality education, goal 4, providing access to e-learning to help students with homework. And I'm going to read another one. Goal 16, libraries are offering free access to information to dispel misinformation about the virus. And so I'm just reading two, but I invite you to visit our website on the ALA site. Here it is, and I can share the link later. And you can read all the different ways. And actually, we updated this chart very recently, and it shows how libraries are helping communities in all the different goals already. And this takes me to a main opportunity, and is related to the SDGs rooted in current reality of the pandemic. So this is the time to build strong partnerships like Goal 17 or strengthen existing ones with local and global organizations and private and public agencies. We need everyone to help our societies that are deeply impacted by the pandemic. So this will help us to place libraries in a position to significantly transform societies, including communities and around the world. So I invite everyone, right? Each librarian is definitely an advocate, and we know that advocacy has different shapes and forms. So this is a good one too. And each library is already helping the communities to achieve the SDGs. So we need to connect the dots, connect with the decision makers, connect with these organizations, and secure a place at those decision-making tables in our community, our cities, our countries. And I believe we can do this.
Дарья?
Daria?
Продолжит введение темы Дарья Белякова.
Hello, dear colleagues. I welcome everyone. I'm gonna show just one slide for our Russian colleagues. It's gonna be in Russian about how the libraries could contribute to the sustainable development goals. Under the auspices of the International Program of the Library Advocacy, our library has conducted a few seminars. We tried to boost the awareness of our professional community about the United Nations agenda until the year 2030, and discuss the role of libraries in achieving those goals. We have spread the Russian language methodical materials from IFLA, including this. What we have come up with is the fact that each of the 17 goals of sustainable development could be accomplished by libraries, at least to a certain extent. And all of the participants of our seminar did realize finally that they've been sufficiently involved on in accomplishing those goals. They are trying to enlighten their communities in healthy lifestyle, in environmental issues. They're trying to bridge the digital divide. They are trying to contribute to the continuous education and so on. After looking at the results of our seminars, we've come up with a subject for the third session of the Russian-American dialogue. And in 2019, we had a really productive meeting talking about the sustainable development goals. But this year, the year of pandemic, has made three particular goals the most acute. Number 3, 18, and 17. Globally speaking, we are still have the health and the life threat for each member of our respective communities. There is also a threat of losing a job, of bankruptcy, and of financial crisis. And something that could actually help to resist that is the global partnership. Therefore, our goal as librarians is to educate our community to work with that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's move right into the good health and well-being. And our first are Russian. Do you want to alternate, or do you want to all speak together? I'll let you decide. So, Ludmila.
Коллеги, Людмила Зайцева и Анна Галеева.
Ludmila Zaitseva and Anna Galeva. Do you have two different presentations? We haven't really discussed that. I think that they're different. Let's do it in turns then. Ludmila, let's start with you. Ludmila Zaitseva? I will try to experiment with demonstrating the screen. If something doesn't work out, maybe Polina will be able to show you a picture, a graph from the IFLA website. That's a section related to the Sustainable Development Goals. My choice is not accidental. My selection is not accidental. Our really important goal at this point, and this is something I would like to emphasize, this is the dialogue between our two countries, between the people living in America and in Russia, including the librarians. One of the most important feelings I've ever had, and I think, you know, many people will agree with me. I'm talking about the pandemic. It turns out that with all of the diversity of our world, it's actually very small, even though it's so big. All people are really subject to fears, to risks, and they undergo all that. They suffer from the same dangers. They feel responsible. Some people feel responsible for themselves and for their family members. Some people have quite different emotions, just fear and panic and so many other things. I'm not really sure what you think about that, but my feeling was that the libraries were one of the few establishments that remained panicless islands, so to speak. If we are discussing at this point the sustainable development and healthy lifestyle and the well-being issues, we can't help recalling and respecting and paying our respects to the medical personnel who have always been at the front of all events, who have always been at the front of all services providing healthcare and well-being to people. And the scale was unimaginable until very recently. We were trying to remember some historical examples about epidemics, pandemics of typhoids and plagues and so on, about all of those huge human losses. But what has been going on right now, due to the, I wouldn't say, it's not about information openness, but about the information involvement in shared issues. This thing was truly global. You can look at the map and you can look at the stories the librarians showed, and it shows the library involvement to achieving the goals of sustainable development. But I would like to show you something related to goal number 3. I hope Polina will be able to help me with that. So the margins, not too many countries shared their opportunities and their involvement in that regard. And I would like to note something. We are talking about, we are always discussing the help of libraries to the achievement of sustainable development goals. Sometimes they have to be a little bit broader. They're the part of the sustainable development that has to take place. But on the other hand, they are the object of those goals. Librarians, library employees, we're talking about us and our colleagues, our readers, all of the people existing in the realm of libraries, who are aware of the libraries. Sometimes they don't even suspect of the library's existence. They are still the objects of the sustainable development goals, their well-being, their good health, the very conditions of their existence, and the existence of civilization as a whole. Sorry to sound a little bit grandiose. Well, people prove to be more related to each other in crisis situations. Many people from the business community were trying not to give up on their businesses, but it was only possible if people felt well, if they had physical opportunity to survive and continue. That's why the third goal is really important. We are talking about the health. Is this healthy people means healthy community. We're talking about psychological health, in the intellectual development. What is really very important is the emotional intelligence. When it comes to the emotional intelligence, you know, its importance became really obvious during this strange period. In the offline world, not everything is self-obvious, but the online world creates better opportunity for human manifestations. So the COVID-19 situation revealed what every librarian is worth. It's a matter of the level of social responsibility. We're talking about just wearing a mask. To what extent are the librarians empathic to their readers? Well, it's very hard to protect the readers, but they but when it comes to the pandemics, well, it's like it's a matter of new knowledge. It's impossible to force the people to be aware, but they have to be able to learn. Well, it's possible to protect some people, but it's easier to protect yourself. You have to prevent the spread of the disease. You have to ensure the calm environment, to ensure the access to your resources, to the world awareness about health and well-being, about preventive measures. And here the opportunities provided by the libraries are kind of underused. We're talking about the public libraries. We also have medical libraries spreading practical knowledge, some new information. They generate intellectual resources, including the new R&D. We've been listening to the news about the vaccine development. Here, the libraries could play a role, and what is really important for the libraries, maybe they haven't been able to utilize some of their opportunities to the full extent. They have to make the health concerns about your person and about your family members. They have to make people more aware of those issues. Some libraries have special collections for people with disabilities, and this sense of empathy, it covers everyone. This huge target audiences that we have, like school children and college students. We have a huge people in the active age, people who are elderly but still active, or already passive, or people located in confined to some enclosed spaces. Many of them would self-accomplish using the help of libraries, but sometimes they are simply unaware of that. Maybe I've been talking too much and I'm about to wrap up, but I had a few questions. Many countries, including our two countries, were taking measures to prevent the spread of the disease. And some steps were able to soften. Like if you could write down two most important measures on the national, taken on the national level, those measures, those steps that really reduce the risks and the threats, please delineate them, describe those two main factors. And the second question I had, if you could do that, is it actually possible to estimate to what extent those steps were efficient, to what extent they actually were able to come up with any result? I'm talking about clinical or restrictive or clinical measures or various restrictions applicable to the conditions of the current library operations. And one last point I would like to make is that probably one of the primary issues related to health and well-being of all people, including the librarians, are the changes in the nature of our work. What I'm referring to is the flexible schedule or remote work. It creates a very different kind of culture, very different type of communication tools between the people. To what extent could that be important for the future? And could it become the foundation for building the new creative strategies for the sustainable development in the future? Thank you. I believe that the question was not about the government restriction measures, about wearing masks and gloves and solitary confinements. Well, all countries had similar measures. What you were referring to were probably the steps taken by the libraries themselves. It's impossible to stay away from society if you live in a society. Well, in Sweden, for instance, because there were very few restrictions there, everybody thought they were unnecessary. To what extent would library closures be justified? To what extent the restrictions of the movement of people were justified? Because the restrictions were not the same everywhere. Right now, I would like to give the floor to Anna Galeva from Murmansk. Maybe she might be able to respond to those questions. And I would ask all other colleagues to think about responding to questions asked by Ms. Zaitseva. Hello, I represent Murmansk, Novosibirsk, regional scientific library. I'm happy to welcome everyone. I'm thinking about the Sustainable Development Goal number 3. I'm thinking about each reader as a person, as a physical person. And it seems to me that the well-being that we've been talking about as a goal, well, it's a balancing act between the physical health and the emotional conditions of each one of us. The library being used by the readers before and during the pandemic, some people who were using it during the pandemic. The library has become a physical phenomenon and a psychological phenomenon for them. And the libraries were able to help the communities already involved with them to become more aware of how to create this global space where your personal well-being could be conjugated with your education, with your staying in the community, even though there are so many personal and national borders, because the libraries have those huge collections, and they were able to help the community remotely, because the digital literacy has become a very important tool, and protecting health and well-being, starting from the search of information, starting from what steps should be taken and so on. In our region, in spite of really huge number of information sources, people sometimes were unaware of what they should be doing, and the libraries were trying to explain the government steps on their platforms, and they were actually renovated their notification, public notification tools online. The situation, we've been able to restructure ourselves in this situation, and well, our libraries are a digital caretaker. Not only we are providing useful information to the people, we are helping the people trying to select the most useful information, and all of the librarians are now the remote care takers in our community. We used to have communities such as language clubs, you know, chess clubs and so on, some parental classes and so on. They went into chat rooms, but a librarian was not just a resource provider, but he or she was also a translator of this security and safety standards. Well, my own community is related to arts. A library has become physical, because the readers started seeing the physical layout of the library. Well, I would like to listen to more information about how the role of librarians has changed under the auspices of the third goal. Well, business entities and so on did they start seeing the strengths of librarians, of library business? Have they come up with any commercial offers of global or local nature? I wonder well, whether the libraries are now being seen as venues to support the government programs and services. We currently have a really strong venue for developing the creativity of librarians. Well, some of the institutions could become, well, something like starters or reformers of this digital environment, you know, to ensure it's that it contains just the high quality information. We are when we are talking about our well-being for our librarians, we have to discuss about the well-being of our networks. That's one of the primary sites. That's about understanding the psychological portrait of our user. Sometimes we're unable to see the user even on the screen, but we have to realize that maybe, well, 80% of the time we were trying to establish the content. Now the percentage is different. We have to deal more with the user's responses, because we are talking with goal number 3, and we want to ensure that it is being accomplished. The libraries have all the resources to be a translator of this awareness, and we could deal with any situations in the world. But we have to make sure that we are moving toward predicting the possible outcomes and consequences of this self-accomplishment under the auspices of those programs. These are some of my remarks. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think you have touched upon the subject that we will be looking at a little later. That's goal 17, creating partnerships with business. Colleagues, what I'm really concerned about, and I'm talking to both sides of the dialogue. Right now, we've been too concentrated on the pandemic. All we are discussing is ensuring safety and security physically and emotionally in connection with the pandemic. Well, the pandemic will be over at some point, you know. There will be an antivirus, there will be another virus. And I think we have to talk about the library as a translator of opportunities of holding on to your quality of life, on protecting your health. We shouldn't be making too many statements about what libraries must do. Just look at what the libraries have already been doing. Well, there are a few links in my chat. Which program was actually created by one of the libraries in the Sverdlovsk region in the Urals. That's the so-called literary dances. We all understand that during the pandemic, the research has shown that people started eating many times more. The diabetes, the hypertension, all of those issues are not related to the pandemic. It's an issue of related to all humanity. We do not move enough. This young lady, she started dancing with her son, and she started showing that, demonstrating that on the internet. That's so good. That's worth being done at a professional movie studio, and that was being done by the library. I would like to see our conversation more practical. We should look at some successful and unsuccessful experience. It was, if it failed, then we have to figure out why. Thank you very much. And I would like to give the floor to my co-moderator, to Nancy, and I would like you to introduce our American colleagues and their visions. People who couldn't make it, who couldn't join us yesterday, you could ask your own questions. You could write your comment or ask the floor, and we'll be able to give the floor to you. Yes, Nancy?
Yes, I want to suggest that the Americans just jump in order to save time. We are already somewhat getting to the end of the time that we had allotted. So David and I think Carla is not going to be here today. So David, go ahead.
Thank you. Sending well wishes to Carla, who's not feeling well. My name's David again, and I represent the Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library in Ohio in the United States, a very large library system with 41 buildings. And I have some thoughts and examples to share that fit very nicely with what Anna was saying and Lubov and others this morning, including how community organizations and agencies are turning to libraries, valuing our services and valuing what we do. So quickly, as we think about the SDG 3, good health and well-being, several thoughts and feelings have resonated from yesterday and this morning. As Julius talked about, we are second responders as library workers and library institutions, responding to essential needs in our communities. And essential needs are changing drastically. We've heard of health and well-being. We'll talk about poverty. We'll talk about job loss and how libraries are fitting in with all of that as we emphasize the continuity of service. Not only are we continue to be there for our communities, but we're building resources to meet needs in an emergency such as a pandemic. So themes like what was said this morning, united in a sense of purpose, that was talked about yesterday. We must appreciate our own sense of purpose and share that as our community feels our sense of purpose, and also a sense of empathy and the relationships, and that every one of us in the library world is an advocate for our communities, for well-being. And as it was said, I think Loida pointed out, the pandemic requires a whole of society response. All of society needs to contribute. But if you look at the IFLA map of the world, as we've seen, look at the vast geography that our libraries are covering as a contribution to that whole of society response. I'm going to share a screen, and as we think of empathy, caring for others, and meeting needs of isolated people, young and old, our library from the beginning was sharing information in the virtual space, as was discussed this morning. We provided a lot of facts to dispel myths or misunderstandings about the health aspects of COVID-19. But we also wanted to go into that space of mental health that Anna was talking about, well-being and psychological health, a sense of calm as has been talked about rather than a sense of emergency. And this is an example on our public website. We have a blog that I'll share these examples with links in the chat, but we emphasized how to have empathy, how to promote empathy and relationship building to help at-risk family members, neighbors, friends, and community members. And I won't go through these examples, but it looks at thinking about people experiencing homelessness or poverty, people with hunger, people with medical needs, all those kinds of things, and resources that community groups offer. Another aspect directly speaking to medical health and well-being is we developed a series of blood donation drives, and that's to say my job as civic engagement works with community partners we look at community assessment, what is needed in the community, what is needed by community partners, and how we can fit that need. And a particular example is our local blood bank that supplies blood to hospitals to save lives was in dire need of donations. And A new role that I filled is coordinating blood donations across the county at 5 locations for folks to donate blood to help people in need that are hospitalized. I think many of us knew about the difficult situation in hospitals and the priority of COVID-19 treatment and that kind of thing. But this is a very new role that we achieved. Also, we are engaged in partnering with a local Christ Hospital College of Nursing, where nursing students were unable to fulfill their practical work in hospitals and medical centers for community health. So we set up tables outside 6 of our library locations where the nurses are interacting with community members that simply walk up to give COVID-19 health information, to give diabetes health information that was spoken about this morning, and to give better eating and healthier living information to folks. We call that health literacy, where folks gain information from our libraries to make better decisions about their individual health and the health of their family. As we look specifically at some of the aspects of SDG 3, it's also mentioned that child and maternal health, mother and child health is extremely important around the world. Our library has worked in that space, especially people experiencing socioeconomic, financial hardship and poverty. So if anyone wants more information about how we've worked in that area for health and well-being and the Sustainable Goal 3, I would love to point that out. And then as I close, so we can open it up to hopefully some interactive dialogue, ensuring healthy lives is obviously a prevalent theme in SDG 3. And my library and I are currently working on our libraries at 41 locations will be scheduled as COVID-19 testing sites. We in Ohio, in our area and across the state, still struggle with a lack of testing availability and contact tracing, which helps stop spread the virus, as you know. And we are working through legal and insurance issues. So I'll part with a question here for all of us that we may help as we unite in a sense of purpose. Has anyone worked with financial, legal, and insurance issues to provide health services in our libraries? We're working on a memorandum of understanding of how, and I believe Anna or Lubla commented on this, kind of the clinical restrictions that libraries must deal with, clinical legal restrictions to provide healthcare or health opportunities in our communities. So I think that's an important question and a challenge that was one of our questions in this area today. So I want to part with just everything that I'm feeling and resonating is libraries are providing hope, and together we can provide hope, especially in good health and well-being.
Thank you so much, all of our presenters. I think you've given us a lot to think about, but what's really struck me, and I want to hear more from everybody, is part of your success is you had already changed the perception of your library in your community, so you could step into these roles with more finesse than communities that had not built these strong than libraries that had not already built these strong relationships. So, you know, we want to give everybody an applause for the amazing work you're doing. And it's this focus on community that is the core of what our dialogue is about. So one of the things that I hope that you will either ask in the chat or say you want to speak is, how do we change public perceptions? This is what we are about, but I will assure you that though it is music to our ears to hear of these kinds of partnerships, it's still a big struggle to convince our communities, even our families, our institutions at universities, but also our governments and internationally through our role in IFLA with the Sustainable Development Goals and some of the issues Loida has talked about. So how do we help the public recognize that we are there to achieve these broader goals and the partnerships? So let's hear from, we'll take a few more minutes, and let me ask my Russian colleague if you want to say any words before we take some comments here.
Я видела, что Светлана Горохова.
Well, Svetlana Gorokhova, as far as I could see, she had some comments, please. Thank you so much, dear friends. Thank you. Well, everyone asked so many interesting questions, but actually the comment that I had, well, I wanted to start with the introduction to the problem. I dare say that it's our dialogue that attracted so much attention to the role of libraries on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. To the extent that I remember during our previous dialogue that took place in the state of Illinois, it was conceptually developed, dedicated to that issue. And after that meeting, we've come up with the ALA task force, and we've started moving toward being more active. And I believe the entity itself, the structure itself, is really convenient with the Sustainable Development Goals. We could look at the society as a whole, and we could see to what extent the libraries are involved. And I loved what Mila said. We keep talking about how what libraries are doing, but we are part of those Sustainable Development Goals, and we are absolutely necessary for to accomplish those goals. What measures were effective, and which ones were ineffective? Well, we're not talking about days off. We were provided with some paid leave. Well, and that applied to the whole country to stop the spread of the infection. Everyone was quarantined. On the other hand, people got a chance to actually become aware of what is going on. There was a period of time when our government did it, and it was really horrible financially to an extent, and it was a good way for the society to get self-organized. Well, there was some economic support provided to the business, some financial assistance provided to families with children, some hotlines on violations of labor codes. Well, all of those issues got really stuck in my mind. When it comes to the change in our work patterns, the perception was that people working remotely basically do not do anything. They're just wearing their nightgowns. They might be working or they might not be working. Now everyone realizes what it means when you don't have any framework. Well, you have your kids and your cats who you really adore. You have to live in your family. But I believe that progressive thinking managers do realize that this is a great way of self-developing. You have to create a certain framework for remote work, and you have to look at the outcomes evaluation. We have to respect this kind of work, this kind of labor, and we have to realize that in crisis conditions, sometimes it's easier to work remotely instead of using the public transportation every morning and every night. And I believe that this is something that is really important. We have to change the brain structure of the managers. Now the psychological, the mental health that applies. Thank you, Anna. You've come up with really good examples. While working, managing the users' responses, you know, that now digital security. We've been discussing that. That's really super important. This is a totally new field, and we could lead our community in that regard. Thank you so much, all presenters. I would like to give the floor to Nicole Cook, who kept asking really good questions in her chat. I would like you to talk again about that, and David might be commenting on those as well. And there are so many people interested in that. Nicole, please repeat your questions.
Sure, thank you. So I was really talking yesterday about the issue of self-care and how do we, and I think this is also related to one of the questions I just sent to David about a lot of our library staff are also going through family issues and illness and dealing with the pandemic, just like our patrons, our public. And so a lot is said about self-care, which is wonderful, but sometimes self-care can be very isolated, and wanting to put forth the idea of how do we have collective self-care, how do we, you know, something like just like what we're doing in these couple of days, having these conversations and knowing that you're not alone. How do we get that into our local libraries, our associations, and how do we kind of have this collective ethos to self-care, and really also trying to put forth the idea to our publics that, you know, sometimes they think the library is very transactional and we just work there, but we're people too, right? So there have been some incidents so far with people kind of pushing back against personal protective equipment. People are upset that the physical library spaces aren't open the way they're used to them being open, and they're very angry, they're very frustrated, and not really taking the opportunity to look at library staff as people, as humans, and extending that grace to us as library workers. So those were the two questions: collective self-care, and also how do we communicate with the public about extending grace back to us as we deal with these difficult times as well.
Roosevelt jumped in to mention partnerships. I wonder if Roosevelt wanted to make an example of a partnership that you felt really illustrates the point of lots of the points being made.
You know, oftentimes folks look at libraries as the be all and want us to be able to solve all of the world problems, all the community problems. And we know that we don't have the resources to do that. And so what we've done here in Austin is we've, you know, when we're dealing with mental health issues, we deal with the mental health organizations within our city and partner with them to put on programs to address the ills of the community. Also, you know, we work with those who do some of the similar work that we do to help expand the work that we're doing in the library. And so it's not that we can do it all, but I think we have enough reach into the community to work with those in the community to help further our goals and efforts. So if you really look around, I think most of us in the community, in libraries, recognize those folks that's doing some of the same work that we're doing. We just have to reach out to them and partner with them, whether it's a memorandum of understanding or an agreement or a partnership, whatever that is. I think by reaching out to the community, we can do that work to address not only the need of our staff, but those in the community as well.
Okay, so in this, let's move on to the next issue. So you could still use the chat if you want to continue on this one, but we're already running a bit behind. So let's try to jump into our next issue about decent work and economic growth. And we'll start with our Russian colleagues.
Nancy,
Nancy,
я думаю, что нам стоит поменять.
I think that we have to swap. Right now, I think more often the floor should be given to our American colleagues. I think this is going to be much better if we give the floor to our American colleagues.
Okay, we will defer to the Americans. So let's hear from Marie and Julius. Again, let's try to keep our remarks as short as possible because our time.
Julius, do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
Ladies first, Marie.
Okay. So as we think about sustainable goal number 8, promote sustained and inclusive and sustainable economic growth, we can think about it in terms of what we are currently going on with, but we can also think about it in terms of the fact that this is not something new. This is the struggle of employment and economic growth is something that we were experiencing pre-COVID. It is certainly something that we're experiencing during the pandemic, and it is something that is going to be with us for quite a while. So all of the things that, especially I'll speak to public libraries are poised to be working on and do work on very much is in alignment with this particular goal. Public libraries are the center of community, and so many people come into the library for certainly for recreational and entertainment, but very much for those job seeking and job skills that are essential for making a contribution to the community. So I was struck with some things that I've seen during the pandemic in terms of the economic growth. So this is considered the highest level of job loss since the Great Depression, so since the 1930s. The last time the United States really experienced a significant downturn was in 2008, and during that time, it took public libraries, especially, many years to recover from that, and our communities many years to recover from that. So this is not something that will happen overnight. The areas that I know our community is faced with is the very quick response that happened as basically the entire community shut down. We had a safer at home mandate where the entire state of Kansas shut down, and so people had to, we used the word pivot very quickly to be able to be at home. And the challenges that we faced were certainly economic, but also digital literacy access, and the ability to be able to telecommute if you had that opportunity, in very much like we were just talking about with our families at home as well, across a dinner table, having a spouse on the other side of the dinner table, actually engaged in school while I was at the library. So being able to kind of do that juggling. I think that some of the things that were the biggest challenges were that it was not in isolation. We had very few models to look at to say, well, how are they doing it in the UK? How are they doing it in Australia? How are they doing it in Russia? So that we could learn, because we were all experiencing this at the exact same time. In terms of the way that public libraries have responded, and I will speak specifically of Kansas and our library, but I know that this is common across the board, is there was a period of time, hopefully not more than a few weeks, where everything was basically shut down. And so many people were in a sense of trauma of what do we do next? Jobs were closing, businesses had to quickly pivot, especially the restaurant business, to a curbside type of way of deploying their food, and also to the fact that people just didn't feel comfortable being in the community. There are things that are not going to go back, and I think as libraries we certainly need to be responsive to that. Many libraries, once we began to realize that this is going to be sustained, it wasn't going to be the 10 days that we thought it was going to be. It was going to be a lot longer. We needed to pivot our response for our community. And so new initiatives began. Curbside pickup of materials, online response, in terms of responding to the ever-growing unemployment responses. Libraries needed to take a lot of the services and the things that we did in a face-to-face environment and then move it into an online environment. I think our biggest challenge in Kansas is digital access and broadband specifically, and the ability for employees to effectively telecommute when they don't have the resources or the access to broadband that they had in their own employment. So one of the things that I mentioned yesterday we did is we took our mobile libraries and we actually put them out strategically in several of the areas of the community to kind of boost the Wi-Fi signal for people. And that was very important for people who needed to connect and needed to fill out job applications and needed to be able to respond and to stay connected. The biggest challenge right now, I think, is, and I don't know if you feel this way, is Zoom fatigue, COVID fatigue, mask fatigue, just the whole thing that we are not connecting. We are humans and we want to connect together, and so much of what we do in our job world happens with other humans in close proximity. And so being able to figure out how do we take that into an online environment. The general conventional wisdom is you spend more time with your work family than you do your home family. And so really having that social isolation and that disconnect has definitely impacted how we can move forward. I'm curious to talk about what new opportunities are out there for people in the workplace. I will share that our executive director is retiring in December, and we will do, yes, Nancy, and we will do the entire thing over Zoom. We will be interviewing people completely in a video conferencing situation, and we will probably make the ask and the final decision. So think about that in terms of how that changes the dynamic of work, and how it changes the dynamic of being able to determine fit for your library, or fit in any other kind of employment situation. So this is where libraries can really fit in, and how we can position ourselves to help be that supportive community. I'm going to turn it over to Julius.
Okay, thank you. And I guess I'm going to try to add to that, if I can pull up my notes here. One of the things that I kind of want to think about when I talk about this is the fact that we are looking at three major areas when we think about workforce development. And one is what we've kind of talked about broadly here is advocacy. And how do we advocate for libraries, whether it's a pandemic or whether we are just in normal times. And as it's already been established that the economy hasn't been great thus far the past couple of years for many of us. And so what is it that we can do to sort of think about where we should be with our economy? So I think one of the things that the American Library Association has done is think about broadly what we can do with our advocacy program. And what we found is our best bet is to focus on a bill in Congress that we call the Library Stabilization Fund Act. And this bill seeks to provide funding for those libraries that have been hit the most during this pandemic. And many of those libraries we see have been hit in areas certainly with furloughs, because during the pandemic we found that many of our libraries need fiscal stabilization to preserve these critical services that we've been talking about. And many of these individuals are in rural and tribal libraries, small libraries. And what this particular bill does, what we're advocating for is to keep these library workers employed because they're being hit the most, to try to defray the cost and related to reopening our libraries in a safe environment. And we know, and it's been stated, Marie pointed this out, that one of the things that libraries have been doing during this time and beyond is providing high-speed internet and providing resources for remote learning. Certainly resources in a time where most of our children are moving to an online environment. So we are providing resources for educators and students of all ages. And even more important, just the idea of providing guidance for our entrepreneurs and making sure that people have and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, the support when applying for benefits. So these are all the things that the library is doing, and the big advocacy effort is through this national legislation that we call the Library Stabilization Fund Act. So I think it's important that we think about advocacy in all these areas and think about how we are, all of these goals are connected. We've talked a little bit about sort of connecting with the community and health. So they're all connected, but it does start with libraries in any environment. It starts with funding, and libraries have always been under-resourced. But one of the other things that I want to talk about is just the idea of skills training. And I think that we should be thinking about libraries developing these sustainable skills and training to enable our communities to develop the skills to be competitive in global markets. And in addition to the library being able to share these skills, being able to train library staff to keep up with essential workforce training so they can provide this type of training to the staff. So we know that we are doing this now, and it's even more highlighted and needed. So we see this across the US, and you just heard some examples, but a couple examples in terms of training and thinking about employment, we see in, for example, in Pennsylvania, one of our states, in one of their counties, and they have a high unemployment rate of about 16%. It increased during the pandemic. And they are providing assistance in digital literacy and offering professional certifications. And they didn't do this alone. They did this with the help of many in their community to try to reach out to provide this type of assistance. We also see the idea of technology and innovation being used. We see this in places like Nevada, where they're using innovation and for a collaborative workforce development project using science, technology, engineering, and math. and 3D virtual reality to develop new careers and pursue job certification. So, I mean, the library already is playing a significant role, but we just see it highlighted even more as we move through this pandemic. The last thing I want to talk about is just the idea of the class and racial disparities that we see in labor. That we don't probably talk about enough, but we should. And one of the things that we saw during the pandemic, and it was highlighted, is that many of our library workers were divided in two categories: those who had jobs that could work from home. And these were mostly, you know, professional librarians. Many were managers. And then there were those who could not work from home. Sometimes they're called paraprofessionals or wage workers, but these are the individuals that provide the essential frontline services in the library. And we call many of these like library technicians, and they work directly with the collections, directly with the public. And many of these individuals are people of color, or they are in the lower economic range. So we clearly saw that in the labor movement and labor broadly in libraries, that there are class and racial disparities that we need to work on. It was again highlighted during the pandemic, but something that we don't talk about enough when we're trying to really focus on this particular sustainable, where we are looking for, you know, some type of equity in employment. So I will stop there and see where we want to go from here.
So let's hear
Сейчас,
from...
наверное, мы перейдем к российскому.
Let's move on to the Russian participants. I would like to give the floor to Anastasia Datlovskaya from the city of Moscow. Nastya, are you ready? Yeah, I am. Thank you. Hello, colleagues. My name is Anastasia Datlovskaya. I work at the Russian State Library, one of the three huge national libraries of Russia, national library systems. Today, I would like to talk about my opinions, talk about my personal experiences. It's been the second year that we are trying to modernize our small municipal libraries. So far, we've been able to modernize over 300 small local libraries. The reason why I'm trying to show this map, I would like to show the scope of our project. I would like to talk about the economic development within the framework of the fact that the library is a structural unit of this development. A library development is a national development. Our project has revealed a few interesting peculiarities. If a library is being modernized, if a local municipality or the central government is trying to invest in it, the whole infrastructure around it starts changing. We're talking about fences and the road infrastructure, the librarians and the local residents. I would like to show the page of the Krasnoyarsk Krai. Krasnoyarsk Krai is located in eastern Siberia, and the library, this is what the library looked like prior to the modernization. It's not too bad, you know, and the librarians were really good. After being modernized, it was turned into a really modern space. Yeah, they developed new, they now have some new furniture, some new equipment, and new books. And the librarians were being retrained, and it's like a growth point. And then other regions started developing the same kind of modernized libraries as well. In many of our libraries of this type, you know, they offer computer programming courses, various other courses. there are some partnerships that were made possible due to the fact that our library was turned into personal space. Some libraries became available for the disabled people. Some new exhibitions offered by our libraries. Maybe Natalia from Chelyabinsk will be covering those issues later. Well, a few questions I would like to ask in that regard is, on the one hand, we have some really positive experience. I showed you the map. The project is going to continue until 2024. We will end up with about 740 modern local libraries. We have some extra investment to the infrastructure of local communities. There should be at least 2 librarians, not 1, and that creates jobs in rural areas. That's really good. And during the pandemic, well, we had to rechannel our budgets toward more primary issues to healthcare. And many projects have been closed in many regions. When we're talking about culture, sufficient funds were redirected from cinematography, not to medicine, but to librarians. Well, it's very hard to produce movies this year, but the government decided to rechannel more funds to the libraries. Well, over $5.5 million were rechanneled to us. That means plus 62 libraries this year alone. And this positive aspect is there. On the other hand, we have to keep to look at the response of the professional community, not just the general population. I would like to emphasize that this community, professional community, is some of its members are really supportive of innovations, but some people simply don't believe that this is going to be a long-term trend, and that what I'm wondering about, how do some of the colleagues start those innovation projects? Maybe they know how to get rid of some future errors, some future mistakes. We'd also like to touch on the issues of education. What type of education is needed for to ensure economic growth? We are training our librarians remotely, which is a real plus during the pandemic. Many people realize that people have something to do. We've always worked remotely with regions, but locals couldn't serve their readers, but they could at least learn, and that was quite significant support. What we've figured out is the fact that the librarians really need communication tools, the skills necessary to write business projects. This is a new competency for us. One more competency is the advancement of libraries. Very few libraries have PR services. Larissa told us yesterday that those services have become more popular during the pandemic, but this is not sufficient yet. We would like to see more promotion of the libraries. What we have realized is that many librarians do not really know what they should be talking about, even though so many things are going on in the libraries. It could really be a contributing factor to the economic growth of a community where a library is located. If the libraries could be providing more information about local resources, and they could make their locations more attractive for, let's say, tourist operators. I won't be going deeper because so many things have already been told by the colleagues about their projects. One thing I would like to add, though, is there was an issue, you know, what new opportunities were revealed on the job. For us, we've started structuring our work better. Our remote work has allowed us to pay more attention to very particular aspects. At this point, we have the so-called server system containing all of our goals. Our managers no longer wondered what we were doing. This is this experience is very important, and we have to retain our jobs and our relationships, our contacts, and that experience was really positive for us. I appreciate your attention. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. Alex, I think if you have any questions, please write them down in the chat. We'll be talking about them at the very end. I would like to give the floor to Natalia Diskaya from Chelyabinsk. What's going on with accomplishing the goal number 8? Hello, everyone, dear colleagues. I'm the Chelyabinsk Regional Universal Research Library. We are the central library of the region. We are involved in modernization quite deeply. I support Nasta's point of view that the modernization of libraries is the best contribution into sustainable development. We are about to modernize 8 libraries this year. This is a very complicated process, but we do have the results already. What I'm going to be covering is the job of our central library, about how we are involved in the process that is being discussed right now, how we contribute to the achievement of higher quality life. We are talking about decent jobs for everyone. My key point, the library is a key establishment contributing to the sustainable development of society, including in the social and economic sphere. Modern libraries are centers of public life. They've become that, and society has to acknowledge that. We are well beyond our functions of traditional services. We've moved on to more active involvement with the community, which allows us libraries not to just advance the information resources that that are currently available to us, but to also get involved to resolving various social issues. I would like to talk a little bit more about the impact the pandemic has made on the libraries. The new opportunities revealed for us by the pandemic. We figured out how to work remotely. Anastasia said we learned how to structure it. We are capable of providing results, and we've become more efficient. Many colleagues did realize that we have to get a hold of new technologies much faster, and they realized what kind of opportunities they currently have. As a result of that, and I'm really happy as a manager, our staff has rebooted itself in a way really fast, and the Minister of Culture believes that the libraries are now more active online compared to let's say theaters or performance centers. We don't have any issues with creating information venues, so to speak, and that's really successful for us. The pandemics revealed that there is very high demand from the library for the libraries. The libraries are able to provide information resources, but they need to have the necessary infrastructure. They need to have the electronic resources. And the government and the society as a whole has been changing its attitude to libraries. We're talking about legislators, executive branch, people who are responsible for defining our budget for the next year. Hopefully we'll be able to resolve many issues. We are not part of the modernization process like municipal libraries. Actually, we have to modernize our own research library, and financial issues are really significant in that regard. I've covered a little bit. Well, let's talk about the pandemic and the society as a whole. Let's talk about the unemployment rate in our region and nationally. First of all, we are talking about small and medium business. The quarantine had the peak unemployment compared to last summer. There were 3 times more people unemployed. Right now, it has relaxed somewhat, but there are still some issues we have to deal with. How could libraries help the people in that regard when it comes to unemployment? As I was analyzing that, we used to be doing lots of things even before, but we have to strengthen our unemployment operations, so to speak. We have to provide really active access to information. What type of information am I talking about? Well, that's information for professional training and retraining, for improving skills, some legal help. We've been actively involved with our partners and our users and the readers of municipal libraries. They do get legal help. They do lead ombudsman's help. We were asking our local prosecutor's office to help us. Sometimes we are providing legal help to people regardless of where they live. One thing I would like to point out, and I'm talking about the fact what's really important for our users is our events dedicated to financial and legal literacy of the people, information support to small and medium-sized businesses. We have an hour of financial and legal literacy. Everything did exist even before the pandemic, and it's working even now. People need that, and we have more interest because the market situation is really tough in our country. What else do people need other than information? People need some help to getting adopted to the new conditions when they are losing their jobs, when they cannot find any job. That kind of assistance is more important than just information. My question is, what kind of partnership relationships we need to develop to ensure that we are more useful to the people? Employment offices in the city. We have a special department dealing with employment issues. Hopefully the city employment center might be a very good partner. We need to interact with them. We need to interact with the mental health assistance centers if they are interested in the new professional personnel. If we turn into intermediaries between employment offices and the citizens, we could provide a real help in seeking employment, and that's going to be really necessary for the people, and they will be able to appreciate that. With all that being said, there is a danger of doing the job of other agencies, so to speak, and we have to think about it. We already started talking to our colleagues, but I believe that we will come up with some really interesting projects and programs. There is an idea of starting employment fairs in our libraries. Well, because employment agencies, they are limited in space. They do a lot of paperwork, while people need advice, they need complete advice, they need psychological support. And I think psychologists could help a certain role, and they could provide that help on the library premises. When it comes to results, we're talking about higher quality of life, unemployment issues, and so on. I believe that this is doable. Well, getting to problems, well, I would like to start with stereotypes, stereotypical view of libraries. And we are, those stereotypes exist among the librarians. Sometimes I hear questions even from my colleagues, why would we need that? From some other libraries, well, we shouldn't be doing that. Well, we should be doing that, because today legal help is one of our priorities. It has become really significant. We need to be able to protect our rights, to do the advocacy for ourselves. So legal help we've been providing have become really popular because they are useful. Unfortunately, some users have stereotypes as well. This is what I did today. The issue related to our subject, I actually put it down to Facebook. I am an initiator of discussion. What's your opinion? What's your offer? Not much activity, other than a few cues. Well, the librarians themselves are kind of passive in dealing with their professional issues. People need to move in order to succeed. A few links that I have, I'm going to be putting them into the chat, you know, if you're interested to look at our projects. But the main issue is how to overcome these stereotypes related to libraries. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer your questions. I would like to give the floor to Svetlana Tarasova, because she wrote in the chat that she has comments. And I would like to say that we will never overcome any stereotypes of the libraries from society as a whole if the libraries themselves are not able to overcome the stereotypes of their self-perception. First, we have to, as a media person, I'm going to tell you that we have to change our own self-identity and self-perception, and then the society will be changing, because people will be seeing very different kind of people. Svetlana, I'm giving the floor to you. Thank you for this opportunity of sharing my comments with you. We're going to have a short discussion here. I would like to return to the idea that I expressed yesterday. We have real growth in the value of each human life. And that is very visible virtually everywhere. We could see the steps taken by all governments. This is a matter of strict humanity. Another aspect is that today the economy is not just the economy of raw materials. Today's economy is based on human capital. We are talking about entertainment, creative industries, management, and so on. And a library today has to think about the fact that we have to match our local communities willing to receive adequate support from the library through the through providing the access to resources. In view of the pandemic, we are talking the electronic resources. We've been able to do that. Not only we were offering fairy tales, but we were providing electronic resources on economy, on business and management. We have to have more targeted resources informing the people about the opportunities that they have. They could, let's say, participate in a competition, or they could simply get educated. They could get access to additional resources. And our library was really successful in efficient working with the regional government. The regional government made a decision to start supporting startup businesses, not just businesses, the actual sole proprietorships, who could see that there are some people who need support, and they were seeking help from us so that we could let the locals know that, well, they could have a very simple cost estimate, simple registration without registering the sole proprietorship. We love this approach so much that our regional librarians association was involved in a competition, and we started operating those sole proprietorships. Rather, we were using our ties to the local community to provide financial resources, to channel financial resources to tiny startup projects capable of changing lives of local community. And we are summing up. Well, we have to select several projects. What the librarians need to be taught communication skills. This is what Anastasia Rytlovskaya was talking about. The more we see the diversity of our community, the more communication skills we have, the more successful we are. Thank you. Thank you very much, Svetlana. I think that if we're talking communication skills, we have to pay the special attention to the team building, the team training, team skills training. Well, we have lots of American comments about, well, what to do with the librarians who don't think much about their social role. How does their management respond to that? Those issues are really important. A library has to be a team. It has to be a collective entity. We're not really skillful about that. Nancy, I would like you, well, we are actually pretty good on time, but our next discussion, well, that's goal number 17. We have to have 30 minutes for that, and our chat contains a lot of remarks about that already. I'm trying to give the floor to Nancy right now. Nancy, please.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for just, an amazing array of possibilities of what you're already working with. And I think, our struggle is how not only to do what we do well and better, but for the perceptions of the public to start to see us as that vital partner. And it's very hard to do fresh, starting in an emergency. Those of you who are already at this table and have been involved with this for years have built the infrastructure to do what needs to be done. So as we move into talking about partnerships for the goals, I suggest that we use this discussion to also reflect on our final wrap up so that we have enough time, and that is not only talk about the opportunities, but what kinds of and challenges, but what kinds of actions that this group together can take to advance these the SDG goals that we've talked about. not only during this disaster, but after? How are we going to use these partnerships and this success that we've had to come out of this, what do they say, build back better? We don't have to quote who that's from in the United States, but how do we come out of this in an even better place? Can we use this emergency situation to make ourselves more essential and stronger? So is it time for our Russian colleagues to start this conversation?
Я предлагаю начать с американским коллегам.
Well, I would suggest that our American colleagues start this discussion.
Okay, I think that would be me. Is that correct? This is Clara.
Yes, Clara, jump in and say hello since we haven't heard from you yesterday. I think most of us know you, but probably not every one of us. So
Great. Well, hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be able to join you. Yesterday, I was at an Italian conference where I had to do a workshop. I'm the director of the Mortensen Center for International Library Programs, and I've had the great opportunity to work with some of the individuals in the dialogue. So I hope that this is, again, another opportunity for me to join you. I was able to be part of the dialogue last year. So thank you so much for the opportunity to continue this conversation. And so I just prepared some slides, and I would like to just go through building on partnerships that we've already had. We were given some questions, so I prepared a few slides just to show some of the work that we've been doing in partnership, and the specifics is that we've been, the Mortensen Center, working to address how libraries can advance peace. And so that's SDG 16. And the challenge is always in terms of partnering is the time and it takes to develop relationships. And so we have focused a lot of our work on what is known as collective impact, because the more that we can work together, the social issues that are more challenging, such as poverty, climate change, and so forth, are only possible if we really not just share information, but actually find common ground and work together. And this kind of work has already been conducted also in libraries, and this is just one example. The particular link is where ALA has compiled many examples where libraries have been using collective impact and working with other agencies. So I indicated that we have been partnering and using various strategies to have libraries think about advancing peace. And so this is one partnership with the American Library Association, where we were able to develop a guide to address the needs that refugees and asylum seekers have. So this was done pre-COVID-19, and so this work continues to serve in terms of a framework that we really need to be able to find ways to continue to reach out to our communities and see what the needs are during these difficult times, where we know that certain sectors of marginalized communities have been more heavily impacted than others. Currently, I'm the president of ACES, and another resource would be to partner with associations, as I indicated. And in this particular case, the theme for my conference is Information for a Sustainable World, Addressing Society's Grand Challenges. So I invite all of you to join our virtual conference, and all the sessions have been organized into the SDG themes. And as part of the work, also with the the Association for Information Science and Technology, is we have developed these information action briefs. They are being developed for each of the SDGs. And I'm just showing the one that is about to be complete, and it focuses on the partnerships. And these information action briefs are just 4 areas. What is our goal specific to the information field? Why should we care? How is this relevant to the information field? What can the profession do? So there are 10 actions that we are recommending that anyone can take care of and do. And then we also have an infographic just to bring attention to the issues. And we have also partnered with Library and Information Schools, and this is just one example where students through online, they have shared resources on how librarians can collaborate for peace. So community engagement is critical in our partnering, and that is because we don't want just librarians to try to do all the work on their own. And so this is another resource. It's an asset map where librarians across the world have introduced things that they're doing to pledge and celebrate and share their stories of advancing peace. And we also use online methods to be able to discuss issues. And we introduce a Padlet to be able to begin discussions. And so all of this kind of work has been going on pre-COVID-19, and so we continue. We develop a particular process of working with communities so they are empowered to take action. And so this is a process that's called CLIA. And just to give you a sense of the work, we were able to be funded with an Biblioteka's grant and worked with 3 countries, and 28 projects were developed. And just to give you a sense that this is all pre-COVID-19, but because librarians have built partnerships with their community and supported their needs, they now have the contacts and can continue to see what their concerns are now that we are in the pandemic situation. So I just wanted to end in terms of professional development, that there are opportunities to learn how we can continue to work with community and not just communities, and not just for communities, and that partnerships are important. And we ask ourselves why that is important, and that it is critical for us to listen and co-create with our communities. And so lastly, I want to invite you to a webinar that's taking place next week on Libraries for Peace Day, which is something we promote. And Julius Jefferson will be on the panel, as well as other IFLA colleagues who will be discussing how we can shape peace together. And so partnerships will be a key focus of this presentation next week. Thank you.
Okay, I am going to continue what Clara started, and it's related to partnership. I want to talk a little bit about the what I recommend in terms of the professional development. It's very, these are parts of professional developments, a little bit more into the practice arena. For instance, sessions to understand the SDGs, because we have spoken a lot about them, but there are still many colleagues that cannot connect the dots. And so another session on how libraries and librarians contribute to their role. So to make it very clear and get the buy-in we might need from some colleagues, and we can invite existing partners of libraries to these sessions. And then on how to identify partners with common areas with the libraries, how to reach out to them and nurture partnerships. I think we need to go back a little bit to those basic points, and to have more exchanges with librarians that are already working in this area, like the one we're having today. Gather stories, how to do that, and to show that libraries are already helping communities, and to show these to potential partners. And so the libraries are already helping communities through providing information that speak to the 17 goals. The information is provided through different ways that take different shapes, formats, as we know, and we are helping the communities to move forward towards development. I wanted to mention how libraries can help communities closer to development during the pandemic if after, because this period of time is going to last a few years, as we have learned, at least in this country. And so this speaks to the challenges brought by the pandemic. For instance, there are some partners that are helping libraries like Los Angeles Public Library to share information for people to apply for government benefits. And these partners are city agencies, mainly right now. There are others to disseminate information about prevention measures to stay safe from the virus. These are NGO, non-governmental organizations, together with the health department from the city. Others are providing programs to equip job seekers with tools to apply for jobs. In this case, these are civil society groups and workforce centers from the cities. They are promoting safe, sustainable practices to encourage those in densely populated areas to do their best to follow recommended measures, such as social distancing, self-isolation, and that has to do, partnerships in this area are with cities and Red Cross. And there are other areas of partnering to promote sustainable pathways to better protect the population and prevent further pandemic outbreaks. These are with the government, with NGOs, with not-for-profit and other groups from the civil society. I want to mention two more examples. There are, this is a great time, this is a great opportunity for libraries to partner with global and national entities to establish themselves as authorities and key players within global bodies and national organizations as well, looking into copyright and legal matters related, for example, to fair use, licensing of materials. These are very important, as we know, for students, researchers to access information. And the last example I wanted to mention is the importance of partner with NGOs to refer people, for instance, to food pantries or host events with organizations that have free food that also could be from NGOs or from the city. And the city, Los Angeles Public Library, I mentioned them because they are part of the ALA task force on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. They host events like these to tackle food insecurity in the city and to the community. And they also provide a suite of different services, referrals to city benefits, to workforce centers. You know, if someone even is a victim of domestic violence. So they have an array of different programs there that are provided by the Irish librarians. So that's very good. And the last one, actually, this is the last one, is with partner with language schools. They are doing that too. And also we can see through the example from the Foreign Library here in Moscow that we can partner also with embassies and other entities to help people learn languages and new skills. And that will be very useful. As we know, we have spoken about this, there is a crisis in employment and so on. So we see how the main opportunities here related perhaps to partnerships, to build a strong partnership or strengthen the ones we have, so we can really impact our societies that are deeply impacted by the pandemic. And I hope these examples are useful. And now back to the moderator.
Я предоставляю слово Светлане.
I would like to give the floor to Svetlana Gorokhova to continue discussing the partnership issues. I will try to be brief. I believe that everyone who knows me, that I'm a true advocate of partnerships. You know, this is something I've been working on, especially international partnerships. And particular project that we're on right now is the product of our great partnership. See how many magnificent people are now present here. First of all, I would like to return to what my American colleagues have already told. The Martinson Center has been providing so much activity to change the libraries through the entire world. This center has been involved in so many programs for a while, just like the national project has been changing the life of our libraries. The libraries are familiar with the Martinson Center throughout the world. With Clara Chu, it has been developing a pace, and we are happy to cooperate with you. Loida, thank you very much, because you're a person capable of being everywhere at the same time. She could be in Novosibirsk, in IFLA, and in our dialogue. There was a comment here about how libraries should be talking to the business community, how they should be doing the advocacy of libraries. One of the ideas, because we have to think our future operations, I believe that Loida has to do a masterclass for us on communication skills, together with a lot of people present here today. This is our attitude to what has already been said. Once we think of partnerships as a whole, about how they have been developing during the pandemic, what I would like to discuss right now is to divide those partnerships into certain groups. The pandemic has altered every library team. The crisis actually revealed some new opportunities for our librarians to work along the new venues. Not all librarians are equally prepared for digital operations. We started, when we started looking around us, once we started building ties and joining our resources, we started coming up with the new types of work that we have. We have to work more on intercommunication inside the libraries. We're not really sure sometimes about what our branches are doing in major libraries, about what some of our colleagues are doing. Joining forces, joining resources allows us to create a new system of work. We could come up with a list of lacking resources. You know, we can figure out what might be needed in the future. This pandemic contributed to building new ties inside our teams. If we start talking about different level, it's the partnership between the actual libraries. Based on our experiences, the libraries are now more involved with each other's projects. We have well, now we have regained senses. People started looking at each other more, at least online, and now people understand each other's strengths and weaknesses, and that desire of self advancement, that willingness of becoming more worthy, so to speak. The libraries are now more involved in interaction. They started getting more involved with sharing their strengths and weaknesses. This is really very positive. Our partnership has become, has strengthened. I think Zoya from St. Petersburg will cover more about that, because in St. Petersburg, this partnership is has become much stronger right now. These are the conclusions we have drawn. You know, moving up is much easier when we join resources. This is something we have to make a note of. Let's hope the pandemic will finally leave us, but those new ideas will stay here with us. And finally, it's the interaction with the outside world, with the outside partners. The new digital life has discovered libraries as worthy partners for other cultural establishments and for the people who've been existing in those digital prairies for a while. There are some libraries with their own audiences, with their interesting content, with their own approaches to certain issues, certain aspects that were not there in the past. And currently, other institutions started relying on libraries. Let's say, as an example, on the 27th of May, we have the National Library Day in Russia. My American partners are aware of that, and this year, for the first time, within 10 hours, we had the book forum. That was the first time the libraries, the publishers, and the booksellers have gotten together. That symbiosis was kind of weird first. It was a little bit chaotic. There were too many venues, but they started joining forces. Well, the close industries, you know, book-related industries started joining forces, trying to support each other during the pandemic, because book sales have declined abruptly, have fallen off. Well, we decided to figure out what we should be doing at this point. What is the way out of the crisis? And it was the pandemic that actually brought us together and forced us to start discussing that. This is a true plus. International partnership. I believe that the pandemic, the international partnership started thriving in pandemic. I already pointed out, people working at home do not work. That was one stereotype. Another one is that, well, when it's physical, it's okay. But when it's online, you know, it's impossible to say what's going on. That used to be the perception. However, it is the pandemic that forced us to look anew at online events. It's just cheaper. People don't need to travel. Even today, we have 30 people right here. Most of the time, you know, there are 10 people on both sides. Well, but bringing 10 people somewhere, they need to be fed. They need to be accommodated. Now we're all sitting at home and we are entertaining ourselves in a way. But it was a joke. I'm not saying to completely move online. I still cannot see what's going on at Maria's library. I cannot hug David. This is what I want to do. David, yeah, David, don't be too tense. I won't be able to get to you anyway. But I'm not saying to stay online only, but we have to take advantage of new opportunities. We are more numerous right now. Based on our own experience, I will stop after that. The Library of Foreign Literature has been working a lot with the diplomats and with foreign community. Every embassy has its own regulations, what they can do, what they can't do. And we have a great project right now. We are together. We keep inviting ambassadors from various nations to come up with a video address within 10 minutes. Well, they have to talk about the culture of their country for 10 minutes. If they want to, they can also talk about what the cultural establishments in their countries do during the pandemic. We have 17 video materials already. It's perfect. It's such so good when people, it was only possible during the pandemic. The best people from each countries talking about their most favorite movies. about the arts in their on their embassy premises. These are new partnerships that we have. Briefly speaking about the social benefits, we have to help people with the employment, with self-education and job education. And Nicole said that that librarians will be expected to become social workers. We have to come up with a special niche for us, but sometimes it's hard to get involved with those partnerships. In Moscow, librarians simply do not have any space. You know, we have e-government, you know, government services and so on. Things have become really advanced digitally right now compared to libraries. This is the minus that we have here in Moscow. Not always we could match our skills, our preparedness, our technical preparedness, our technical hardware, so to speak, could match this new digital world. But we're trying to work on that. Thank you so much, dear friends. I'm giving the floor to Zoya Chalova. Zoya, please. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yeah, we can hear you really well. Thank you. My name is Zoya Chalova. I'm the manager, the director of the Central City Library of St. Petersburg, and also the chairperson of the Library Society in St. Petersburg. Well, during my long life, I have realized that all really complicated issues could be resolved when you are not alone. And the matter is that in our city, the period of the pandemic has shown, well, I wouldn't say that the pandemic was painless for our libraries in St. Petersburg, but we haven't sustained too many losses. Well, you've already told that as a team you can always work. And the St. Petersburg libraries were able to come up with this team. A few years ago, libraries in St. Petersburg did not really look well. And due to the initiative of Mayakovsky's library and our library association, we we challenged our government, and the government supported us. All our libraries have been modernized. We have 200 public libraries. All of them have very unusual structure. They are divided into 16 centralized systems. Each of those centralized systems is a legal entity with its own bosses, its own leadership, and that is that had to be united. About 10 years ago, due to our effort, we have come up with a totally voluntary corporation of libraries. What is a library corporation? Is when everyone is pacing ahead and everyone is trying to accomplish the same thing. Due to that corporation, we've been able to establish the shared reader's card, the shared electronic catalog, the shared access point for all of those services. And we have come up with a lot of services to our readers. Lots of issues have been resolved easily due to that. As if, you know, forecasting the pandemic, we've been able to train our librarians in how to work remotely. So when in April we were all shut down, the librarians from St. Petersburg, using their really nice equipment, they have been able to start resolving the new problems. Well, we've been literally saved by that. When we were shut down, everything was shut down. The population of St. Petersburg was really concerned. Well, at the beginning, during the first month, they didn't care much about whether the libraries were there or not. They were probably sure that we might actually disappear for a period of time. We had to prove that we are there, that we are still working. We are able to help you due to our good ties, due to our friendships and contacts with the media, with the television, with the radio, with the newspapers. They started attacking, if you will. They were trying to promote information about the libraries, that they're alive, they're ready to help you, they're there to help you, and that has worked. The community could see that we are still working, that we are capable of helping them. Just like all libraries, without much experience, we started doing some really easy venues, but upon analyzing what's going on, we realized that people need to know what COVID-19, how to travel abroad, how to get a test. All these issues were really of great concern for our community, and we've decided to provide this kind of services to the people in the fields that were the most painful for our community in St. Petersburg. We have come up with a series of webinars dedicated to all these really vital issues, vital to our community, as we have huge creative ties with many institutions, with the Committee on Healthcare, with a lot of medical institutions. They provided really good journalists, really great experts, some advice by hydrologists, immunologists, toxicologists, psychologists. You know, there was a huge demand for those webinars. People were getting access, answers to the questions that used to be super difficult for them. The environment itself was very warm and homey in a way, and they were able to obtain answers to their questions. Lots of elderly people, lots of elderly people were really helpless, since they were not able to understand so many things. Lately, we've been working a lot with the elderly, with the pension funds, with the social welfare foundation. We've been working with legal help agencies. We've been using the services, and during our webinars, we've been providing detailed information concerning their questions, trying to explain to the people that they could seek help from us anytime, and we will be able to help. You can't really imagine how responsive people were to those seminars. They were talking on newspapers, on television. They were trying to talk everywhere. They were so happy that the libraries do exist. That was really good. We were proud of ourselves. And during this period of time, we've held a lot of conferences. We've had lots of measures and at this point, lots of events, I'm sorry. And at this point, we have come up with a great idea. On the in October, we are going to hold the first online book festival of St. Petersburg. We will come up with a masterclass for 52 libraries to show how they work, what they have been doing. We will be showing those examples. We'll be showing the new practices. And during those festivals, this festival will take 3 days. The 9th of October will be dedicated to nonfiction, and then to fiction, and then to the literature for children and for teenagers. There will be literary competitions, some meetings with authors. We would like to demonstrate to the whole city what we've been doing and what we will be doing in the future. And we're all inviting you to get involved in this first book fair or book festival of St. Petersburg. It's going to be really beautiful. We have great team, and when we are together, things always get successful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Zoya. Olga Wolf from Murmansk. Olga, please, no more than 5 minutes. We have no time at all for wrapping up.
Olga, you're muted.
Тихо, не слышно.
Оля, мы вас не слышим.
We can't hear you.
Так, слышите?
Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah, okay, good. Well, so sometimes I don't know why my mic is working. Just a couple of words. My name is Olga Vovk. I'm a deputy chief on development of the Murmansk Regional Library. People, who were here yesterday, they could look at the map. Murmansk is the biggest city to the north of the polar circle, and we are the biggest region library in the city. We're located downtown. We're pretty close to the main government building. We've been really lucky. We have to have good relationships with the government. We have 5 floors in our building. It's a 5-story building this year. Within many years, we've been sharing our building with the regional puppet theater. Our area is about 800 square meters. So on the right, there was an entrance to the library, and then there was an entrance to the puppet theater with a lot of adults with little kids. Last year, we finally had a new building renovated for us. Well, now the whole building is ours, and we've decided to create a center of modern arts. This is something that nobody could expect. On the other hand, that was the right approach, because our library, just like many other libraries, has really good relations with creative associations, some non-formal associations, dancers, musicians, actors, producers, and so on. Well, pandemic was really useful for us in that regard. One thing is to come up with some ideas, but then accomplishing projects that are not really characteristics of any libraries. Even though we didn't have any new staff people with new functions, we had to use the existing staff, the opportunities that we have at this particular point. And as our library has been closed since late March. We were talking to each other in Zoom. We're discussing our documents. We've been able to come up with a technological approach to that project of modern art. We had some space for exhibitions. Well, we had a movie hall, concert hall. There was also some space for master classes, for meetings, and so on. Our library starts organizing all of that on obtaining applications. To accomplish your project using our premises, you have to fill out that application online and then try to protect your project. What is really important in that regard. One of the most important criteria here, well, you receive certain score points for every application. We're trying to get involved to get disabled, people involved, or children without parents or caretakers, or if a project is related to arts and performance skills, you know, it also receives extra score points. It's mid-September right now. We've gone through all of the paperwork with our legal advisors. We have a council of experts, including an actor, literature studies expert, and some librarians as well. We started receiving applications. We have two venues on Instagram and in Contact. Well, we have a number of projects. What we have realized at this point is that this idea, you know, what other cultural establishments were telling us, well, you guys are very brave. You guys are really brave, as you could be given really difficult projects, since you are basically a budget-funded establishment, because your director is going to be responsible for that. But we understood how important it was, as many creative folks cannot really become self-accomplished where premises are already available. That especially applies to young guys. We're talking about people below the age of 35. What they're saying right now, we now have new partners that we're not really aware of. They started writing to our social networks, and we have realized that we have hit the very important point. To be very brief, well, I have to stop here, otherwise I will be talking for too long. Thank you so much. We understand that this interaction with the young people, not just with the young people, I would like to point out, yes, we have to deal more with the young people, as people who are older, well, they have established lives, they have established relations with the exhibition center, but we've turned ourselves into premises for more adventurous projects. Well, we have no time at all. We were given extra 10 minutes, but we are joined by Pavel Kuzmin. He is the acting director of the Library of Foreign Literature. He wrote to us that he needed 2 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Дорогие друзья, ну, честно говоря,
friends, first of all,
я к вам присоединился давно. Я слежу за вами очень внимательно. Все обсуждение, которое было, оно исключительно интересно, важно для нас, Библиотеки иностранной литературы, которая всегда поддерживала это прекрасное действие как библиотечный диалог. Считаем, что он выполняет исключительно важную роль объединения тех интересов и тех решения тех сложных вопросов, которые мы все столкнулись. Но, знаете, все выступления, которые я послушал с огромным интересом, много очень интересных сообщений. Но меня несколько волнует один только пункт. А как мы будем выходить из этой ситуации с коронавирусом, потому что мы настолько уже и психологически, я говорю не только про библиотекарей, я говорю и про читателей, и про пользователей, настолько уже находимся под вот таким несколько жутковатым последствиями вот этого коронавируса, что как бы ни получилось, что вот эта любовь к онлайн-мероприятиям, к онлайн-активности потихоньку снимет с повестки дня деятельность библиотеки как такового учреждения, в которое люди приходят не просто и не только, и не всегда, чтобы только почитать книги, а с тем, чтобы провести для себя время, провести и участвовать в каких-то обсуждениях, которые требуют личного участия глаза в глаза. Я об этом говорю, потому что библиотека иностранной литературы открылась для читателей после снятия ряда ограничений. Конечно, мы не открылись не полностью, но я вижу определенные не боязнь, не страх, а такие ощущения у читателей и у сотрудников библиотеки, которые меня в какой-то степени настораживают. Сможем ли мы их пересилить, переболеть и предоставить читателям новый уровень услуг, новые взаимодействия, которые снимет вот эти сложные вопросы в дальнейшем. Конечно, онлайн-мероприятия, в которых мы с вами участвуем, в которые, конечно, библиотека иностранной литературы за это время активно принимала участие, дала прекрасный взлет, общение. Это, как Светлана Горохова сказала, это, конечно, и дешевле, и возможность, но мы теряем что-то такое человеческое в общении, которое всегда людей тянуло в библиотеку. Просто для того, чтобы прийти и побыть в этом замке или храме знаний. Поэтому при всем глубочайшем уважении к современным технологиям, которыми мы все пользуемся, я все-таки мечтаю о том, чтобы восстановилась та прекрасная деятельность, которая была в библиотеках до вот этого вируса COVID-19. Хотя считаю, что мы должны те возможности, которые дала нам современные технологии использовать с тем, чтобы те мероприятия, которые проходят в здании библиотеки, имели возможность видеть как можно больше людей. Но мероприятия должны быть в библиотеке, не сходить отсюда, из нашего здания. Спасибо вам огромное, спасибо вам за то, что вы столько времени и с таким интересом участвуете в дискуссии. Это мое первое включение в российско-американский библиотечный диалог. В прошлом году я наблюдал за ним, но не участвовал. И я восхищен. И благодарю Светлану Горохову, благодарю команду РГБ за организацию этого мероприятия. Благодарен также Министерству культуры Яриловой, которая прекрасно вчера выступила, превосходно выглядела и очень хорошо выступила. Поэтому счастья, здоровья, удачи.
Good luck to you.
До новых встреч, но уже, возможно, в эфире.
Hopefully in physical space. Thank you very much. Pavel, you have actually made a huge generalization about all of our discussions within 2 days. And I really believe that our meetings will create the foundation for the libraries to stay around physically. Nancy, let me give you my opinion, and you will give your opinion later. We've been discussing a lot of important aspects, but there are 2 aspects that I would like you to pay more attention to. We were talking about libraries as venues for sustainable development. Thank you, Loida. As Loida mentioned, a very important factor, the libraries need to become key players, working with NGOs, with national entities, dealing with all of the issues of social importance. Other colleagues were also covering that field. Clara Chu, for instance, was speaking about international education programs. Svetlana Gorokhova also delineated various aspects of communication. Svetlana Turelsova also pointed out how important it is for the libraries to think about how to match their communities' demands and requirements, and each issue also contained what the needs for training and retraining of librarians. 4 aspects should really become part of our training plans. We have to add the 5th point, basics, communication basics, professional community communications, and communications inside libraries. I believe this is how I would wrap up today's session, and I would like to give the floor to Nancy. You've written a lot of comments in the chat. Please talk about them for a couple of minutes.
Okay, well, we're very, we're not only short on time, I think we're over time, but in the last few moments before you all depart, we thought rather than take the time to go around and get a sense of what actions you want us, you see this dialogue taking to work with our communities to advance the SDGs during the global disaster, and hopefully there will be an afterward. But if you could type one key recommendation you have into the chat, and then our team will harvest it for our meeting on Friday. And Ellen, I think, will jump in and say a few words about that meeting on Friday. And Sveta may want to jump in as well. I don't know, is Vadim here? If he wants to chime in as well right now.
He's not here.
So I think that it's really essential that we not only think about the actions we want to take as a group, but to keep in mind the unique role this dialogue has played over the last 4 years, and starting more than 20 years ago. How can we, as a unique group, contribute more? And I must tell you, the thing that just amazes me, thinking back over the 4 meetings and 3 years, I guess, since 3.5 maybe, since we started this, is at least related to the SDGs. We didn't even have it on our agenda, I think, for either US or Russia libraries, because we all thought we were beyond the development stages. But I think we recognized with our meeting in Urbana that that was not only not the case, but that it was a great way to frame the important work we do in communities and allow us to have to articulate how these partners, how we can be a partner to all of these other groups. So I think we've made tremendous progress here, and I want to salute all of you. I was just blown away by how much you stepped up related to these agenda issues and how much now is going on. I'd like to say that we all take credit for it, and I think we do, but of course there's other winds blowing as well. But I think that certainly we should feel very good that the work we've done is really taking flight, getting, you know, up there in the atmosphere, which I know isn't always so easy to see in some parts of our country these days, but that's so important. So if you can type in where you want to see these actions, or what actions you think we can take, and our genies who get together between our sessions like they did the last time, which I'm not sure I know who those genies will be yet, but we can harvest them and make a somewhat coherent final statement as we reconvene on Friday. So, Ellen, do you want to jump in, or anybody else at this point? And I just got to say, thank you all so much for your amazing contributions, and seeing all your faces together is just so heartening. I just feel like I have a family again. So thank you.
Can I jump in just quickly? Дорогие друзья, спасибо всем огромное. Хочу сказать.
Dear friends, thank you so much, everyone. Nancy is a true dreamer. Well, we are out of time. Everyone started writing down the ideas. Not everyone can come up with any ideas. So my suggestion is to extend the time slightly, please. For the Russian participants, our deadline is until 11 a.m. tomorrow. And for Americans, the deadline is at least 4 or 5 hours till the end of your workday. Please send us. You all have our contact information. Well, please send your proposals to me, to Paulina, whatever we can do together. We have to come up with a list of themes for our next dialogue. We have to come up with a list of practical steps we could do together. Well, you remember the webinar. Well, it could be mixed. Well, Valeriy, may God help him. He will be able to help us, or we could exchange our resources. We could do it in our native languages. We could talk about communications, a partnership with businesses, digital literacy, social services issues. Please send us your information. Does everyone understand the deadlines? Please send us the information. We will try to insert into the final documents of the dialogue. Yeah, I agree with that. Perfect. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Especially, we are grateful to the audience watching us on Facebook 3 hours a day. Thank you so much. We will take into account all of your comments, and we will be putting them in our documents. Thank you very much, all speakers. The time has been so fast. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are really grateful to our technicians. Thank you so much, Valeriy, who've been working with us for the second straight day. And I really hope to see all of you again. I agree with Pavel. Nothing will be able to replace personal hugging. No virtual kisses will replace the actual hugging. This is what I'm missing. I really want to squeeze all of you guys just the way you are showing, and we'll be able to do that. I believe you. Loida, thank you so much. Love and kisses to everyone. Does anyone want to add anything? Thank you. See you later. And thank you so much.